Son of a bitch. Oh, I just crashed. Honestly, a blessing in disguise.
Let's be real, there is no buzz behind this one right now, like none. That's manifesting in a lack of pre-orders, a lack of positive sentiment across social media, and a general lack of chatter at all. Think about what you could be playing instead that fits into the same general category. Overwatch 2, Destiny 2, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Paladins, The Finals, or even Marvel Rivals.
2-minute wait to start the game, 15 seconds of gameplay, and at least 3 minutes of character select. That's the ranked Concord experience.
I did not pay attention to any of the story that they included in this game. That I don't think anybody cares about the Guardians of the Goy Slop ripoff story that this game is going to be pushing.
Jesus. You ain't never going to see a girl from OnlyFans cosplaying this at anime convention. I'll tell you that.
Everything that we're complaining about will be fixed in a month, though.
Yeah, no. That's the whole point of the beta, so they can fix everything. This could be where they're hiding all the fun.
It's just searching.
I gotta say, how is the game? It's mid. It's not worth $40.
Oh no!
Welcome to the Deep Fried Gaming Channel, a channel that covers games, game news, reviews, roasts, and retrospectives. I am Josh, one part of this two-man operation. Today, we are going to take a look at some of the recent happenings in the Sony sphere. Our discussion centers on Concord, the upcoming first-person hero shooter from Firewalk Studios. On May 30 of this year, during a PlayStation event, people got their first look at some of the gameplay of Concord, as well as a cinematic to introduce the characters. Neither of these exactly inspired confidence in the game. The cinematic channeled the worst dialogue and humor of the Marvel movies that it was obviously inspired by. Many commenters were happy to let Sony and Firewalk know how much they didn't love this introduction. On YouTube, one gentleman writes, "Whoever wrote this dialogue has a promising future as a drive-thru employee," while another says, "Oh cool, I didn't realize Reddit was developing video games now." Recently, there was a beta playtest for those interested, which, by the way, required everybody who wanted to participate in the early access period to pre-order the game. It's also worth noting that at the launch of the playtest, a large number of the people who had purchased the game couldn't even launch it on Steam. Impressions of the beta weren't very positive, though some larger gaming publications ran interference for it by talking about how there's a lot of potential or that the bones of the game are good, which is just journalist shorthand for I don't want to badmouth a Sony game and lose my journalist access to free keys. Overall, the consensus among players was that the game was slow, unoriginal, and had uninspired characters that continued to push the cringeworthy PC envelope. While I don't want to get too deep into the politics of the whole thing, I do think it's worth just a quick trip into the character roster, because it's too funny to not at least address it. The character selection screen looks like the member sheet for a college's feminist slam poetry club. It would appear two of the characters, that would be Emery and Daw, are solely responsible for the food shortages in South Sudan. De Beers appears to have drawn inspiration from Minion and Megamind for her helmet, but sadly, unlike Minion, she kept her head attached to her body in the final product. Baz looks like a crappy Blade cosplayer who wears her costume around college campuses and drops vague anime lines in the hope that people will find her sage and mysterious. Between her shredded shorts and absolutely butchered haircut, It-Z looks like she just got out of a method-acted audition for Leonardo DiCaprio's role in The Revenant. The Duchess looks too old to know how to properly boil water, let alone shoot a gun or strategize a flank. I'm surprised Lark can decide on an outfit to wear, since Zay apparently can't even decide on their own pronouns. Between her pantsuit, dead eyes, and buzzed head, Cripps looks like an embittered lesbian divorce lawyer. Jabali feels like what would happen if Cypher from Valorant took off his mask and turned out to be so much less cool than everybody thought he was. Teo looks kind of normal, to be honest. Boring, in fact. I think Teo is plausible deniability so that nobody can say every character on the roster is a child's sloppy body-positive Play-Doh figurine. You can use your imagination for the rest. They're varying degrees of stupid, and I'm not going to continue wasting my time dignifying them with insults. But let's not be too harsh, though, right? There are some redeeming factors. Right? Well, again, that depends on who you ask. Some outlets like IGN have suggested that it's incredibly fun, with great abilities and gunplay. in spite of a lack of creativity. PC Gamer writes, Concord is very fun so far. I played 7 hours of the beta and was impressed by developer Firewalk Studios' strong FPS fundamentals. Concord's guns feel tremendous across the board, especially Lennox's revolvers. Every hero I've played has a fun hook I don't instantly recognize from other games. Yeah, I call cap on that, but other outlets, and in particular users, have not found this to be the case. Steam comments under the beta announcement are especially hilarious, with gems like, first game to sell 0 copies, or, so this is the first ugly fusion of PSN account requirements and DEI on Steam? Holy shoot! Can we get a priest with holy water and a holy cross? Another reads, how does it feel to be so far up your own ass that you will waste a AAA budget to make a crappy, creatively bankrupt hero shooter that nobody will play? And finally, there are 10 times as many people playing Monster Hunter World, which came out 6 years ago, than this brand new free open beta. How many people will actually pay to play this? This is a very pertinent point. According to Steam charts, the open beta peaked at 2,388 players, and that number very rapidly dropped after day 1. This is an honestly shocking number, especially for a large Sony release during a free beta playtest. The PS5 has sold over 50 million consoles, and there are nearly 169 million monthly Steam users, and even so, this game couldn't break into 10,000 concurrent players in spite of Sony's promotion. If people aren't willing to download and play the game for free now, how many are going to be willing to dish out $40 on release at the game's launch only a month or so later, once all the reviews and gameplay are in? My bet is not many, but what do I know? I'm not an executive at Sony. In fairness to Concord, the $40 price tag could be a one-and-done purchase. It has been stated by Firewalk Studios that there will be no battle pass, which is a plus. Their language seems to suggest that there will be no microtransactions at all. A post to their Twitter states, Concord does not have a battle pass. We wanted to focus our attention on making Concord a rewarding and robust experience on day 1, where just playing the game, leveling up your accounts and characters, and completing jobs yields meaningful rewards. End of quote. But as nice as it would be to dust off our hands and say, oh, finally, no obnoxious monetization, I wouldn't be so quick to do so, as an in-game shop could still be implemented with skins, guns, and premium currencies, while also having a good number of organic unlocks through gameplay. Valorant's a great example of this. Every Valorant agent has their own contract that you can work through to unlock skins, sprays, or other items, but no sane person would argue that Riot hasn't monetized the nuts off their game, Battle Pass or no. In the unfortunate gaming landscape we live in, Battle Passes can commonly be the best value microtransactions in a video game because they include the most items for the cheapest price, as long as you're willing and able to sink in the copious number of hours required to unlock everything. With this being the case, Concord not having a Battle Pass but retaining a cash shop could end up being the equivalent of Firewalk stabbing you between the ribs while assuring you they would never slap you in the face. I do want to briefly discuss how this game could have gone so tragically wrong so incredibly fast. I think there are a couple of main factors that could have contributed to this sad state of play. Leave a comment if you get that joke. First of all, Concord looks like a decent game. By that I mean there doesn't seem to be anything egregious about it other than the character designs. It looks like it probably plays more or less fine and could provide a moderate amount of entertainment to fans of the genre. The problem isn't that it looks fine, the problem is that it doesn't look excellent. The PvP first-person shooter genre is not a new one by any stretch of the imagination, and there are many games already on the market that have perfected the concept, a lot of which are free to play. Destiny, Valorant, Paladins, Overwatch 2. In order to truly stand out from the crowd in this saturated space, developers have to create a truly unique product with fresh concepts and execution. And even then, unique or well-executed concepts often aren't enough to keep a game in the top of the charts. The finals, upon its release in December of 2023, saw excellent success, reaching nearly 250,000 concurrent players at its all-time peak. It has steadily declined, and now consistently rests in the 7,000 to 15,000 concurrent player range, which is far from a dead game, but it's also a far cry from the smash hit it was at launch. By nearly all accounts, AI controversies aside, the game is excellently made, with a great premise and solid systems, but people, well, they still opted to go back to playing CSGO or Valorant. A similar story is told with Helldivers 2, which had unprecedented success for a Sony second-party offering on PC, but has fallen to a small but consistent 20,000 players on Steam. Staying power is extremely hard to establish with live service games. Only the absolute best stick around for a while. Being fine does not cut it, and Concord simply looks fine. Gaming isn't a static market, it's an ever-shifting landscape, and developers have to either be ahead of the curve or the absolute best in their established genre. But someday, that genre is going to lose popularity. Perhaps the 5v5 hero shooter genre has reached a point where it's more or less established with its core titles, and to break into the market with anything but a mind-blowing effort is all but impossible. Compounding this, the second factor I think is certainly political. And this factor I definitely do not believe is as important as the first, but I think it has had an impact. That factor is that people don't like DEI, they hate Sweet Baby, and they think Concord reeks of both. They probably aren't wrong. Obviously, I myself am not a fan of the characters and absolutely believe DEI was involved in their inception and design. Many of the current developers on Concord are ex-developers from Bungie, who worked on Destiny 2. Bungie is a notoriously political studio, having issued strong support of Roe v. Wade during that fiasco. They changed their social media profile pictures in support of Ukraine at the start of the country's conflict with Russia. They are obedient little game developers and change their official social media profile pictures to gay pride themes every June. Following Bungie's acquisition by Sony, the lead community manager stated that there would never be a muzzle big enough to stop the studio from standing up for what they believed was right. This is a reference to Sony, who weren't a huge fan of the studio taking hardline positions on political topics that half of the world doesn't agree with. It's not a surprise in the least that ex-developers from a studio that enters the political realm so freely and aggressively would want to rip open players' jaws and cram as much diversity pie down their throat holes as possible. The problem is, many players think diversity pie tastes suspiciously like excrement, so they aren't sold on the idea of going in for seconds, especially when the pie looks slightly underbaked and average to begin with. The third, and in my opinion, least consequential factor for this game going supernova and imploding on itself like a dying star is visual fatigue. Genre fatigue is a real thing, and in some cases, so is visual fatigue. This goes beyond prioritizing only the excellent games in a genre. Even if Concord was excellent, how many of the same stupid game do we actually need? How many times do gamers want to see the cartoony art style adopted by Fortnite, Overwatch, TF2, or the many games inspired by them? The truth is, people are just getting sick of them, and they need more to pique their interest. It's an age-old trend at this point, following in the footsteps of open-world fatigue, or the loss of interest in collectathons in the 90s and early 2000s. People don't want any more. There is enough on the Thanksgiving table to go around, and nobody wants Aunt Karen's green bean casserole, especially when instead of green beans, it's excrement, and instead of casserole, it's pie. But what do you think? Does Concord deserve the hate it's getting? Will it truly be as big of a flop as it's seemingly queued up to be? Are you sick and tired of Marvel dialogue infesting games and other media? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, that means you are legally obligated to subscribe. And if you don't, I will ban your Fortnite account. Alternatively, you could check out the Deep Fried Gaming Podcast on any notable podcast platform. It's hosted by myself and my boy RJ, just like this channel. We cover old games, new games, reviews, roasts, and retrospectives. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.